Okay, we're at the Gartner Expo in Brisbane 2022, and I'm talking to Ravi Shankar from Denodo. Ravi's come all the way from California to join his colleagues in Australia for this conference. Ravi, I just want to get a bit of a sense of what your reading of the market is and what you think people are saying. Like, give us the sort of context for where you think things are up to.
Sure. So in talking to some of the people, delegates here at the conference, Michael, there are people struggling with a couple of different things. One is these are very large businesses to start with. They have multiple different divisions across different geographic regions, and they're really grappling with a lot of the siloed information. They are not able to get an enterprise view of all the data to be able to do their work. So for example, one of my large banking customers, they are using it in a risk and fraud related area, which is very separate from a core banking area, which is very separate from a retail banking area. And for them to get a unified view, they are really struggling from putting together all together. In another case, we have a very large distributor or who was a customer speaker for me of very heavy equipment, mining equipment. And they're again struggling with being able to get the real-time information to be able to conduct their business on in real time. So those are the things that I'm actually seeing and hearing here as the challenges. And the analysts here are talking about the trends on how to basically solve that kind of challenges.
So if you were to boil it right down and you said, what is that major challenge? What do you say that is?
So one is gaining this unified view of the enterprise information in a fast enough real-time way. So that is what I would characterize as the major challenge.
Okay, and I notice that you talk very specifically about a logical approach to this. Can you just talk us through what that really means?
Sure. In order to get that unified view, a lot of the companies are resorting to ways of moving the data into a central repository. So for example, you might have heard about data lakes, for example, where they're trying to put all the data. But in talking to the delegates, the technology that has accelerated and also the data in terms of the volume, variety, and the velocity has really put them at a point where they're not able to physically move all the data with the required staff to be able to make it available across the enterprise. So that is called a collecting principle. A logical approach is a virtual approach to connecting to the data wherever it is, rather than having to move all the data into a central place. So that way the data belongs where the gravity is. The gravity of the data belongs at where it is being authored. So you leave the data wherever it is, you connect to the data, get a logical or a virtual view of that information, and make that view available to the business users to consume in a central place. So they don't have to go to all the different systems to look at the data. They can just go to this one virtual data layer, and then they can search for the information, do the discovery, understand the relationships, and they can do a whole lot more. And you can actually secure it by the people who are accessing it. So that way they are entitled to only see the information that for which they have the privileges, and not necessarily go gangbuster across all the data that the system brings it together.
Okay, and then let's say I am an enterprise that has applied the approach that you're talking about. What can I expect to see as a sort of result?
So the results are, first of all, being able to provide this information in a much faster time frame. We are talking about it. The second one is able to pull together this information using fewer resources. When you're physically trying to move the information, then you're actually talking about loads of developers that need to be writing scripts and code in order to move it. But when it is a virtual kind of an environment, you use maybe like 1/4 of the people. And the third and the last benefit is from a cost perspective. So no longer you have to physically move the data, which is expensive in terms of the resources. The second one is to store them, right? So storage is cheaper, but over a period of time, once you kind of put it in one place, then it becomes a challenge because the data is duplicated, and especially if you put it into one of the cloud service providers, they will charge you money for moving the data out. So it becomes expensive. So you can avoid all those things by leaving the data wherever it is and connecting to it.
Okay, Ravi, thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Michael. Enjoyed it.